Chanley Painter in Iowa for us tonight. Let's bring in our think tank, talk about what we just saw. Joining us in Atlanta, Georgia, family law attorney, law professor Randy Kessler. In the Bronx, New York, criminal defense attorney Renee Hill. Also in Atlanta tonight, criminal defense attorney Michael Bixson. Welcome, everyone. Randy, let me start with you because my guess is in the world of family law, you have come across a few love triangles through the years. Emotions get extremely high, don't they?
They do, and there's a lot of gallows humor in our practice, because everything's so sad, divorce, criminal. But the running joke is, if I'm not going to need you, I'm going to need a criminal defense lawyer to defend me because I'm so mad and angry. And people are joking when they say that, and I understand they're joking, but every joke has some bit of truth in it, and there are a lot of people that feel just the way that this defendant feels. And you better hope, if you're the prosecution, that nobody in that jury has felt jilted and felt like I wanted to do that and didn't, because there may just be a tinge of sympathy, and that may be the manslaughter result. So you're absolutely right, Vinny. We see this more than we should.
Renee, do you think there is a chance that there could be some level of sympathy based upon the way this all happened, right? They're together for 20 years, and then they're not together, and he's with someone else.
Yeah, I agree with Randy. There's things that happen between couples, and the jury can look at this case and they may have some sympathy for her because the defense attorney laid out a pretty good scenario during her opening statement, and she painted a picture of a woman who was just so distraught over the fact that her husband had left her. They had been together for 20 years. And, some of the jurors might feel sympathy for her, that she's going through that. It was at the height of the pandemic, and she was just really just distraught. And that could draw some sympathy in this case.
All right, you mentioned that opening statement. Michael Bixson, I want you to listen to a part of the opening statement and tell me if you've ever uttered these words on behalf of your client. Take a listen.
I'm going to tell you right now, standing right here, before you have heard any evidence in this case, I will stand here and I will tell you that Michelle Bowe is responsible. Michelle Bowe is the one who had the knife on May 18th, and Michelle Bowe is the one that stabbed her. Now, the only thing even remotely Perry Mason-like about that, ladies and gentlemen, is the fact that I'm standing here right now, 20 minutes into this trial, and I'm telling you that. But it's important that you know this isn't a whodunit. It's not a whodunit. The police got the right person.
Michael, are you going to use that for your next opening statement?
Look, I've never used those words in particular, but she's doing a very smart thing. She's getting ahead of bad facts. I mean, these are uncontroverted facts. I don't think there's going to be much of a question, did she do it? The question is, was it premeditated? So getting ahead of these bad facts, I think it's a very smart thing. Now, how she phrased it, now, I probably wouldn't have said it the exact same way. But again, I do think the idea of what she's doing is a good idea.
And Renee, there are a lot of bad facts for this defendant. Do you think this was the way to gain a level of credibility in front of the jury right out of the box?
Absolutely. And I have actually uttered those words or very similar words. I had a case like this many years ago where my client unfortunately killed his wife. He confessed to 5 people that he had done so. And it was quite clear from a lot of the other evidence that he had committed this crime. And I went in asking the jury not to convict him of the murder, but to convict him of the manslaughter based on other information that we had. So, it was very good. It does bring credibility, and it lays out that, listen, I'm not asking you for everything, but I'm asking you for what's just. And then you give the reasons why.
All right. Professor Randy Kessler, I want you to take a listen to this eyewitness. His name is Daniel Rumberg, who heard some of this commotion. Let's take a listen.
The statement sounded as they were saying, he doesn't belong to you, he's mine, he doesn't belong to you, several times. That was the most I could make of anything.
Mr. Rumberg, what did you do next?
I turned around and went back inside, deciding that I did not want to get involved in 2 girls' fight. over whatever the fight was about.
Well, Randy, they were fighting over, and I don't think it was really a fight because the victim is strapped into her car seat with her seatbelt on. This isn't really a fight, but he doesn't belong to you. He's mine. Does that prove motive for first-degree premeditated murder, or does that sound like sudden passion?
So I don't know really, because think about it. If you're going to premeditate a murder, are you going to do it right where there are going to be all these witnesses that saw the whole thing? That makes it, to me, a little bit more that it was an act of passion. She might have been thinking about it, but did she orchestrate it and plan? I mean, who plans a murder like that where there are going to be all these witnesses? I mean, it's a prosecutor's dream, right, Vinny? You're a prosecutor, that you've got witnesses that actually saw it happen. I mean, defense really had nothing to say except, yeah, she did it, but don't give her the worst crime. Just give her manslaughter. I think the witness is powerful for the prosecution, but it also may help the defense since the strategy now is not murder one, but manslaughter.
Yeah, the one little wrinkle, though, Michael, as we add more bad facts to this, she's wearing the rubber gloves and she brought a knife. So that I think you can circumstantially argue that may have been a level of planning. But, you know, the words, he doesn't belong to you, he's mine, that sounds like passion, right? Like, oh, she loses it, she snaps, whatever, however you want to say it. But the fact that she's got the rubber gloves and she's got the knife are a real big problem.
Well, I don't think there's a question as to whether or not she might have been in the throes of passion while killing this other poor woman. That's undeniable, right? I mean, she stabbed her. It's about as up close and personable as you can get. The question is whether or not she planned a series of events going up to that. And it looks like she did. I mean, she followed her in her car. She had latex gloves. She was washing everything at home. There's a lot of indicators here that this was actually a planned series of events. It might have been poorly planned, but still planned.
Yeah, that's the other part of all this, right? It wasn't, and I've heard defense attorneys make that argument. Well, if you're going to plan a murder, why would you do this? Why would you do that? Well, I would always say, well, we don't catch the smart ones, folks. We don't catch the ones who commit the perfect crime because they're out there. They're still out there. But Renee, I want you to listen to another investigator who testified today, and he found a very unusual calendar in the defendant's kitchen. Let's listen.
Was there anything in the kitchen of Michelle Boat's home that caught your attention?
Yes.
What was that?
Calendar on the wall.
Showing you what's been admitted as Exhibit 34. Is that the calendar?
Yes.
So, Lieutenant, what was so unique about a calendar in someone's kitchen that it caught your attention?
Well, oftentimes you see a calendar, you have things like people's birthdays, maybe appointments, things like that. This one, something significant had happened, obviously 69 days before May 18th, because someone in that residence has taken the time every single day, it appears, to document that every single day.
Yeah, Renee, to me, this is, marking each day that he's gone. Every day marking it. To me is the opposite of sudden passion. It's like a slow boil. A slow boil. Each day it builds, it builds, it builds, it builds until May 18th when she couldn't take it anymore and she had to take action.
Well, perhaps, it can be looked at that way, certainly, but it could also cut the other way as well. That again, each day that goes by, she's more and more distraught. She's looking at the fact that he's gone. He's gone another day and another day. And then on that 69th or 70th day, she sees them together. They're having dinner. They're laughing and just enjoying each other. And it's hurtful. And then she approaches this woman and she wants to have a conversation with her. Now they get into an argument and we don't know exactly what was said, but for the last few words that were uttered. But, they're having an exchange and she could have snapped at that moment with a little bit of the build. So many days having gone by that she's missing her husband and he's not there anymore. Yeah. It's possible. It cuts both ways, so.
Again, is the conversation include the rubber gloves and the
that's
knife?
The problem.
That's the problem.
That's a huge problem.
Big bad fact. Anyway, our coverage continues tomorrow, folks. First thing in the morning. Make sure you're watching right here on Court TV. When we come back. All right, let's bring back in our think tank. Still with us, Randy Kessler, Renee Hill, and Michael Bixson. All right, Renee Hill, if you were meeting with Barry tonight, would you suggest to him to maybe up the reward a little bit from $100,000 to maybe, I don't know, $1 million?
I don't think that's going to help him at this point, Vinny. It's interesting that they don't have a body yet. A year has gone by, but a lot must have occurred during this year for them to be able to charge him at this point and to charge him with the murder. So him offering more money is certainly not going to help him.
Isn't that the best defense, though, Michael? If the real killer comes forward or if someone finds out who the real killer is, up the reward. Isn't that his best ticket out of jail?
No. At this point, forget upping the reward. But I'm curious as to, because we don't know. We don't know why they're charging him. We don't know any of the details of this. I mean, hey, look, if they were able to find the killer, if it's not him, fantastic. But there's a lot of question marks about this case, and we just don't know. I think what's curious about it, though, is this whole influencing a public servant charge that he has. And I'm curious if that has to do with the murder charge and if that's what maybe led them to him. Again, there's just a lot of question marks, and we don't know at this point.
Yeah, Randy, again, this is another situation where you've got one spouse accused of murdering another spouse. We've seen this many, many times through the years here on Court TV. I'm really curious. People, you're in the middle of these divorces, right? And they happen all the time. And I don't understand why. And I'm not convicting Barry Morphew here. I'm just talking about all the cases we've covered through the years. Why people choose murder over divorce, Randy? And it's a serious question. And we've had so many spouses that have been convicted of them. Why do they kill their spouse when they've either found someone else or want to move on, instead of just hiring Randy Kessler or doing whatever you have to do to get a divorce?
Because that would be rational. And we deal with a lot of irrational people going through a lot of really tough emotions. And that's why we talk about it. And I know the criminal defense lawyers here today would say, I feel a lot safer with someone who knows what they did, it's in their past, as opposed to somebody who is about to see their whole world fall apart, their time restricted with their children, their assets that they worked so hard to get, all of a sudden be given away to somebody else. People get angry and they act quickly. And in fact, when we serve divorce papers, we often suggest that the person serving them, that party, go away for a couple of days. Wait until it calms down, because yes, people react emotionally in family law more than any other area of the law that we know of.
Yeah. So Renee, we don't know much about this case yet, right? But it seems like they've got to have, whether it's some digital evidence, forensic evidence, they've had to been able to put this whole thing together some way without a body.
Absolutely. There has to be some sort of a connection. And one of the things that, not concerns me, but that I'm extremely curious about is the tampering charge. What evidence did he tamper with that they have now discovered, and that is connecting him to this case? So they have to have something. They have suspected him for a year, but they didn't arrest him a year ago. They're arresting him, or they have arrested him now. So within this year, they had to have uncovered evidence that is connecting him to this case. Circumstantial, it has to be. How strong it is, we don't know. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see what they have.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this, I'll hand it to prosecutors out there, the DA, having the confidence to go forward, because there are prosecutors around this country who sometimes will not try a case without a body. They just won't. And it'll be not only years, it'll be decades that it will take. But here, they put the case together. They believe they have enough, and we'll see as we continue to follow this story. When we come back, though, we're going to take you on the docket for a case involving the murder of a Florida State law professor. And this one, we're going to need Randy Kessler for as well, because the alleged motive is all involving custody of some children. That's next. Okay, let's bring in our think tank right away on this. This is a very layered and complicated situation here. Michael Bixson, you've got Catherine McManua, who at some point is dating Charlie Adelson, whose sister used to be married to Dan Markel. So there's a connection there. Now, the man who's being convicted of being the trigger man has been convicted of killing Dan Markel. So, to me, the only way that you can connect the Adelsons with the hitman is through McBanawa. To me, it makes sense, but apparently didn't make sense beyond any and all reasonable doubt to all 12 jurors at the last trial of McBanawa.
Yeah, and it's a very weird scenario because you have so many different parties to this case, so many different connections, and then obviously you also have the Adelsons who are still out there and never did get charged. And so there's this weird connection between them, allegedly between them and McBanawa, and yet you never see them charged, and you see the state charging her again, or at least trying her case again. It's a very weird scenario where you have some parties not being charged, some parties being tried twice, and now, obviously you have convictions on the other side. And so there's a lot of moving parts to this case overall.
And Renee, I think it's a stronger case for prosecutors and remember, it's prosecutors who are saying this. They are saying this is a murder for hire, and it's the Adelsons who did it. Well, charge the Adelsons with McBanawa, put them all on trial at the same time, and if McBanawa wants to take the stand and say, I know nothing, let her do it. But the Adelsons have to be there for the prosecution to have, I think, the level of credibility needed in this case.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't understand why they weren't charged when the argument is that it was done at the behest of that family. And so, they should have been charged already, and why they haven't been, they can't connect them. So how do they put this all together? They definitely need this chart that was put up because there are so many moving parts, like Michael said. This is a very, very strange and complicated case.
Because McBanawa, Randy, is saying, listen, I didn't put this all together. So then basically putting it on the Adelsons would have had to somehow know the father of her children? What? To me, it's a complete picture if you indict everyone, charge everyone, and try them.
Yeah, well, maybe you could do that. It's the old theory of throw everything against the wall and see what sticks. But, it's problematic when you have to do diagrams and charts and graphs.
But they did it they're doing it anyway, but they just don't but they don't have the Adelsons on trial. They're doing it anyway.
Right, and it's all insinuation and your favorite terms, circumstantial evidence. She must have been involved because that's the only person that connected them. It's still a hard conviction to get, I think you need better evidence than that. It's a tough one. It's a confusing one. It should be a law school question, hypothetical.
Well, let's go to the family law aspect of this, Randy. Let's go to the family law aspect. You've got Dan Markel was living in Tallahassee. That's where he was living with Wendy Adelson. Then they split, and she moves to South Florida where her family is. And it became a real battle. I mean, how would that have played out inside a courtroom? What does a court do when you're figuring out custody and one of the parents moves away from where they were living together?
Boy, we debate that all day long in the American Bar Association and other family law groups. We call them move-away cases. Some states call them relocation cases. They're the most difficult cases for judges because children didn't agree to have parents in different states. Their parents were obviously together at some point in time, and they had this child. Those are the tough cases, but what judges like to do is figure out what's best for the child, and it really doesn't matter which state. It's what has the child been used to, where's the safe environment. But it throws a real wrench in the deal when they're in different states. It makes everybody crazy. It makes the person who is left behind crazy, and it makes the children really suffer because children need both parents. These are the tough cases, and we see emotions boil up in these more than just about any other. You're trying to steal my child. You're trying to deprive me of the right to have a relationship with my child. I'll get you. And maybe that's what happened.
Michael Bixler, you know what else bothers me here is I see a theory that prosecutors have argued, and they argued it during the course of the trial, and I see people with not a lot of money all being charged. And then I see people who are also part of this alleged conspiracy who have a lot of money who haven't been charged. Why is that?
Yeah,
What's going on
there's
here?
There's a little bit of a disconnect to charge someone for the receiving the money and allegedly planning this when you don't charge the people who allegedly gave her the money and really plan this. I mean, they didn't just cut her a blank check and say, do this. I mean, obviously they were asking her to do something in particular, and I think it's what we're all saying is, unfortunately, have him killed. And so it's a weird sort of, scenario where they're not being charged. And, maybe the reason that they're not being charged is they do have some type of connection to prosecutors or to state officials. Maybe that's not why they're being charged. I certainly don't know. But there really is no good reason to be trying this woman twice now and not even charge them once when they're allegedly the ones who gave her the money to have this be done.
Yeah, Renee, if it's part of, and I'm not saying anyone is guilty here, everyone's presumed innocent, but I'm basing it upon what I heard during this first trial. And if this is what you believe have happened and you have evidence that this happened and you charge the people who don't have a lot of money, yet the people who have a lot of money don't face any charges, it makes our system look bad.
It does, but I got to tell you, Benoit's attorney has to love these facts. She has to love it. She can argue all day long. Look, where is this family? How come they haven't been charged? My client's not the one who committed this crime. They are. She can throw everything at them, especially because they aren't there and they haven't been charged, and she can make the prosecution look bad while doing it as well. And certainly gain sympathy for her client.
Randy, when I look at a murder for hire case, the people I believe are most responsible are the ones who are doing the hiring, more so than the hitman, more so than the middleman or middlewoman. To me, this murder would never take place if the people who are doing the hiring don't do the hiring. And to me, they are the most responsible. Yet in this case, and again, I'm not saying that they did it, but under the prosecution theory and what they argued in court, the people who, in my eyes, if we believe the prosecution's case, who are most responsible, are the ones who aren't getting charged.
Yeah, well, that's with everything. The buck stops where? With drugs, is it the person who's selling it on the street or the person supplying them who's selling it on the street? I mean, it goes without saying. You cut the snake off at the head, right? You cut the snake's head off and everything else dies. And you're right. You stop the people that are thinking it's okay to just throw money at somebody and get rid of them. Everything else falls into place. Then the people that do the killing, they're out of work.
Yep. And what we're doing here is the opposite. We're cutting off the tail of the salamander and it's growing back. When we return, the Duggars. I think they had a show, what was it, 19 and counting? And one of the sons, Josh Duggar, got into a little bit of trouble. Show was canceled. Well, now Josh Duggar in more trouble, but he's out on bond. Should he be out on bond? Is he a danger to the community? Child porn charges. He admitted at some point molesting some of his younger sisters, although he's never been convicted of it. What's going on? Your verdict when we return. Welcome back, folks. Josh Duggar. You know who he is? Take a look. We've got a picture of him. It's a mugshot. Looks a little happy for a guy who's just been arrested for child porn, doesn't he? Anyhow, Josh Duggar is a former reality star at this point. He was part of 19 and Counting. It was about a family that had a lot of children. He was one of the children. But the show came to like a crash ending because of a big scandal involving Josh Duggar, where it turns out that he admitted fondling or molesting some of his younger sisters. Never charged criminally for it, but now he's been charged for downloading child porn and including some really dark stuff involving children under the age of 12. I mean, really young children. And he's being charged in federal court, but made bond. He's facing 20 years in prison, but made bond. A lot of conditions, electronic monitoring, but no electronics, okay? He's nowhere near a computer. He can't live or be with children. He can visit his own children because he's got 6 and his wife is pregnant, if she is there, but he can't be with any children alone. But he was released on bond, and one of the issues when you're released on bond is, are you a danger to the community or a risk to the community? So I asked you that today as our 13th juror question, and we've got your responses, including our 13th juror comment of the day, coming from Melissa. Is that Melissa? That's Melissa, right? I can't see. Is that Melissa? All right, I just want to make sure I got the right one. All right, easy answer. Yes, he is a danger to the community. We don't want him or his kind in our neighborhoods. No amount of therapy will help people like him. The more they get away with, the more they'll seek to destroy victims. Randy Kessler, are you surprised, number one, that he was able to get bond And do you think he's a danger to the community?
Yes, I was sort of surprised he was able to get bond, and I think he probably is a danger to the community. But we are in America where you are innocent until proven guilty. It's a high bond. It's a tough one, but these kind of crimes that really offend almost everybody, those are the ones that you are shocked when you see them back out on the street, even though you're innocent until proven guilty. Just being arrested for a crime like that has a bigger stigma than most arrests.
And there are conditions on it. Connie, tonight, I know every defendant is presumed innocent, but children are innocent. All children deserve to be protected from sex offenders. That includes protection from a parent that is a sex offender. Renee Hill, your thoughts about this bond, because some people get bond, some people don't. It's downloading porn that he's been charged with, but it's child porn. What do you think about the level of risk to the community here?
Well, the fact that the court has set down so many conditions makes the court believe that the bond that was set is appropriate in this case. I mean, as we know, when bail is set on a defendant, it's set to ensure that he's going to return to court. It's not supposed to be punitive. It's not supposed to punish him for a crime that he hasn't been convicted of as of yet. However, the court has imposed these conditions. He can't have any electronics. He can't be around any children, not even his own, unless the wife is present. So those conditions are in place. The supervised release personnel will be coming into his home to check to make sure he's not using any of the devices and making sure that he's abiding by the conditions. So although the crime charged is reprehensible, I think that, the judge set the appropriate limitations here.
Sandy, tonight, I do believe he is a threat to the community. I don't understand the judge letting him see his children as long as his wife is present. It should be someone with a children's protective service, etc., being present. Michael Bixson, how about that? Do you think, he's been with his wife and they've raising this family together, 6 children, 1 on the way. Do you think another layer of protection should be in order here?
It certainly couldn't hurt. And I have seen where judges put in orders that, CPS or Child Protective Services has to be there if they're going to be around their children. Usually they're not allowed to be around anyone else but their immediate family if they are allowed to be around children. So I have seen judges put in those extra layers of conditions into a bond order like this. But again, I think there's, so many already restrictive conditions in this bond that I think that there are layers of safety sort of already put in place.
And Penny, tonight, he reminds me of Ted Bundy, a predator escalating. Let me ask you, though, Randy, on the issue with the children, right? At what point can a judge cut off a parent from seeing his children without the other parent saying, listen, I don't want them near my kids?
Of course, if the crime that he's accused of might lead to harm to those children, you protect children first. There's a term we learn in law school, parents patriae. The state oversees all parent-child relationships ultimately, and you protect children at all costs.
Randy Kessler, Renee Hill, Michael Bixson, thank you all so much for joining us tonight. We'll see you again really soon. That's it for me.